What's up guys, how you guys doing? This is Ray. So in this video, I want to share a plugin with you guys that I think is pretty cool and it's worth using. Now, one of the things that we like to do when we're mixing, we like space, we like to separate things. And this plugin that I'm going to show you does a great job with this. Before I show you the audio plugin, got to give you guys a heads up. When I record these videos, I hook up to an external source. Accidentally, I reverse the XLR cable, so left is right, right is left. So keep that in mind when you see me showing you guys examples. But I got the session here, and let's just listen to it. The sounds that I'm using came from the Avid Sound library, so let's dive right into this. Like I said, nothing special. Have a couple of plugins in the track, nothing important. The main thing that we're going to be focusing on is this plugin here. Some of you guys that already know how I do these reviews or whatever you want to call them, I like to push the plugins to the max. When you're doing a review, you want to hear exactly what these plugins are doing. So before I play the same audio that I played before with the plugin enabled, let's talk about the options. So over here you have the in section, the beginning of the section of the plugin. You have in, tilt, MS. You have the panorama section, pan, width, pan, delay, pan, wet invert. This is the ambience section of the plugin. You got size, feedback, phase left, phase right. Then you have the LFO, frequency, amount, phase spread, LFO on/off, color, brilliance, presence, body, bass, color on and off. Then you have the out of the section. So basically the audio goes from left to right. And over here we have your wet gain. You have your wet on off, your dry on off. And that's basically it. Very simple. All right, so the first thing we're going to take a look at is tilt. What this option is going to do, it's like a left and right, except when you switch it to left, the right is still there. When you switch it to right, the left is still there. So while I do that, also pay attention to the meters. Over here we have MS, so if you want to do some MS correction, you do it here. All right, so we're going to move on to the panorama section, and the first option is pan. If I move it to the left, check those speakers out. They move. Now, this isn't necessarily really moving the left and right. It's moving the effect with it. So check this out. It's almost like the tilt. Take it to the left. The signal on the right is still there, slightly reduced. And the same way goes for the right. Left is slightly reduced. And then over here we have width. So check this out. Move the speakers right to the center. So let's play around with that. All right, so we're going to take a look at pan delay. Then over here we have pan wet invert. Now, pan delay, if it's switched off, the plugin is going to use some algorithms to figure out its positioning within the panorama section. If you turn it on, it's going to introduce some delay to enhance the signal. I know it sounds confusing, but if you want, you can read more up on that. The next option is pan wet invert. So basically, if I turn this on, this module is going to go to the ambient section. So if I shut it off, it's not going to do that. So one thing I want you guys to check out. You see this? There's other connections that the plugin is making. This is the in of the plugin. This is going to the panorama section. Then it's coming right back out. Then it's going right to the out. But over here, there's a little connection that's going from the panorama to the ambience section of the plugin. So over here, we have pan dry bypass. We were just talking about these connections. Check this out. If I press bypass, as you can see now, this section is going to go directly to the output of the plugin. All right, so now we're going to move on to the ambient section of the plugin, and here's where things start to get really interesting and really weird in a good way. So over here you have size, and check this out. This is really interesting. So I'm gonna just keep it that way. I'm gonna start adjusting this. So the next one is phase left. And with the default preset, it's automatically on. Check the speakers out. So you can see the tweeters right here. So if I click this, now it's going to go back to normal. Check this out. That's pretty nice. I like what's going on there. So I was messing around with the phase left, phase right. Haven't touched the feedback yet. We'll get to that in a second. All right, so now we're going to look at feedback. As you can see, it's at 0%. But check this out as I go all the way up. As I bring up feedback, starts showing you more pictures of some speakers. So I want to bring it back down to 0. All right, so we're going to move on to the LFO section, and things are about to get even more interesting. So we got frequency, amount, phase spread, and LFO on and off. So we're going to start messing with the frequency. And over here you have amount. So you can control the amount. So by default, this is off, so you have to make sure you turn it on. All right, so the next one is color. So we have brilliance, we have presence, body, and bass. So one of the things you notice, I shut this section off. Reason, because I want you to focus on this specific section. If I keep this on, you can hear the effect, and it's going to be a little hard to hear what's going on here. So let's go. So as I adjust this, you can hear it's adding high end to the signal, and it sounds pretty nice. It's not a lot, very subtle, but it's there. So I started adjusting the presence, and you hear the high end, you hear the effect a lot more. Yeah, you don't want to overdo it, but of course, for this video, we are. So the next one is body. Interesting. Let's move on to bass. And of course, you can shut this on and off if you wanted to. So what happens if I turn on LFO and color on? Let's see. So I decided to play around with the phase. And as you can hear, definitely coming up with some interesting stuff there. And the final section is the out section of the plugin. Like I said before, plugin goes from left to right. Over here you have wet gain, meaning how much of the wet signal you want to hear. So it's basically you're mixing the dry and wet signal together. And over here you have wet on off and you have dry on off. Check it out, the connections that we spoke about earlier. So if I shut this off, what's happening, the plugin is going into the panorama section, into the ambience, but then it's not coming back. So if I play it, you're not gonna hear anything. But if I turn on the dry, the reason you're hearing that is because the plugin is going in this way. I also can do this to completely bypass this section. But at the same time, we can do this. So I disable dry, have the wet signal only. So basically it's going like this, from in, panorama, ambience, right into the wet section of the plugin. So you're only hearing the effect. So to do this without this plugin, you would definitely need a couple of aux channels, a couple of different plugins, some routing in order to get this effect. So that's Stage by Fiedler Audio, presented by Plugin Alliance. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer. Check the description. There's going to be some links. Go try this plugin out. Also, don't be afraid to do this. Don't be afraid to read the manual. It's very important you understand what certain options are. This is Ray. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm out of here. Later, guys.